Hey guys, back again. So let's do a monthly catch up review of all the stuff that I watched, horror related for the most part, plus a convention I went to in Kansas City called Crypticon, which I have been to the past 3 or 4 years. And I got a lot of stuff and met a lot of people. So, first off, I'm going to talk about how great of a place that is. Really, really fun. And I've been to only a couple different kind of conventions in my life. I went to Planet Comic Con this year as well, which was in Kansas City, Missouri, too. And I think that's pretty much all I've been to in terms of different conventions. But Kansas City is like a couple hours away from me, so I always go there and check it out because I really love these conventions. Like I said, I've done it for 3 or 4 years so far, and I don't feel like I'm going to have any sense of stopping. I feel like I'm going to keep going every time. Uh, but I want to mention how great and a fun time it was, and all the people I met first at Crypticon. So the first person I met and I got a picture signed is Felissa Rose, who was wonderful and really sweet. And like everybody else has said that I've encountered that has met her, has said she's wonderful, and she really was. She immediately, I walked up and she said she loved Ghost because I had a Ghost shirt on, and I thought that was a really cool way to break the ice because she is an important figure to me. Like, I have watched Sleepaway Camp for a long time and I love those films. And I was honestly pretty nervous going up there, and I still held a conversation with her, but it was like, man, I get to see somebody that I've just been like, a big, like, to me, a big star. And I really liked seeing her. I thought she was awesome. And she just really was a warm person. And I didn't even have a lot of time to converse with her. I noticed that I kind of got stuck in the way, but I did talk to her for a couple minutes, and she was very wonderful. So, really like meeting Felissa Rose. And then the second person I met 8 people. The second person I met was Tom Matthews from Friday the 13th Part 6 / Return of the Living Dead. Really great guy as well. I also went to his panel for Return of the Living Dead and Jason Lives because they had a lot of panels as well. Really fun guy. And then these are these are 2 people that I've met from the same movie. So Karen Cleach and Alex Armbruster, they're both from Thanksgiving, the Eli Roth slasher that came out last year, which I love. I think is excellent. Just such a fun slasher. If you're a fan of the slashers, that's definitely one that I really liked a lot. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times, and I even told Karen Cleach that, and she was like, "Oh wow, like just good." I think these actors, it's weird meeting actors because they don't always know how much of an impact some of these movies make, and like slashers are my form of entertainment in terms of horror. Love slashers, and I can pretty much watch any of them even if they're terrible. And meeting both of them, it was really cool. And I took photos of both of them, but with Karen Cleach, she had brushes and like thermometers and stuff that would be in an oven, related to an oven and cooking. So she used the brush and brushed my face while taking pictures, which I thought was really kind of genuinely hilarious. Like, I thought that was so funny. That just made it memorable. I really like seeing that. And I talked to Alex about, he had been in a lot of stunt work and a lot of other big comic book properties as well, like the DC and Marvel stuff and other movies. He had a lot of film credits, but he was great as well. And then these 2 girls I met from the Halloween 6, J.C. Brandy and Mariah O'Brien. Now, J.C. Brandy was Jamie Lloyd, the replacement for Daniel Harris in Halloween 6, and Mariah O'Brien played Beth, the character who gets stabbed in the Myers bedroom, or in Judith Myers' bedroom in Halloween 6. And meeting both of them, they were both really wonderful and really nice as well. I talked to Mariah about how she was she was the poster art for Alice in Chains, one of the albums, which I'm not super into Alice in Chains, but my dad is, and I thought that was just a cool connection, talking about that. She was really nice. JC Brandy was interesting because we were talking about the franchise, and she hadn't seen all of them, but she was more of a purist to the first 2, which I thought was really cool, because those are 2 of my favorites out of all of them, even though there's some that I really like as well, but the first 2 are obviously my favorite ones, like a lot of people. But yeah, they were both wonderful and interesting. And then I met Max LaFair, who was the stuntman for Ghostface in Scream 6. Really cool. We talked about the Gale fight scene in our apartment, and how that went, and he said it went off pretty good. And in his panel, he was talking about how you can make mistakes while doing stunt work, but then have it kind of hidden in film. Like apparently he slipped and fell in the bodega whenever he was running away from the guy trying to shoot him, and you didn't even catch that because they cut it at the right time. But it was like he was like a ghost, like he literally like was gone. And I thought that was really cool to hear some work stories like that. And then the last person I met, like I said, is Roger Jackson, who was very nice but very quiet. I talked to him about his video game work because I love a lot of video games, Final Fantasy specifically, and he talked about which ones he was in, and that made me feel good hearing that. And he was really funny. Whenever I took the picture, he was talking in a very low, kiddish voice, like don't smile or your teeth will they'll take your teeth or something like that. And I kind of forget now, but in the moment it made me laugh and made me think it was a really funny interaction. He was a nice guy, albeit a little quiet, but that's no problem. Like, I'm not saying that as an issue. He just was a quiet person, but it was great meeting him as well. And all the panels were really cool. There were a lot more that I didn't get to meet. I wish I could have met everybody and taken pictures with everybody, but there were so many people. I couldn't, of course, afford all that. Most people can't. But we also had a panel for The Howling, which had Joe Dante, Bernabeschi, and Dee Wallace, which is a cool panel. You had the Cujo one with Dee Wallace and Danny. I forget what his last name is, but he was the kid on Cujo. Really funny. Dee Wallace especially is really funny in these Q&A panels. There was also a Grinch panel with Grinch / Austin Powers, where it had Mindy Kaling and Clint Howard, who were both very funny, and they just were really informative and just talking about how Jim Carrey had to be in makeup for like 4 hours, apparently like 4 hours, during making that movie, putting on the fat suit, putting on the makeup, and everybody else doing makeup but they were honestly unrecognizable because I forgot these two were in that movie. It's a Ron Howard movie, and I forgot that Clint Howard was in it. But I haven't seen the Grinch in a long time, the Jim Carrey Grinch. But there were really cool panels like that. And I just really had a fun time. Like, I definitely recommend it if you guys go and do conventions. And if you're around the Kansas City area, Kansas City, Missouri, like, I'd recommend it. Like I said, I haven't done a lot of conventions. I've only done a couple, but only in Kansas City, Missouri. But I wholeheartedly recommend Crypticon. Very fun. And I also got a few other things. I forgot to grab my shirt. I got a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 shirt, which is really badass. It's just got Leatherface with the chainsaw, and it's got the blurb on it from Texas Chainsaw 2 and all the film credits. It's really cool. But I didn't get that, but I'll show you the movies I got during this. So the first one I'm going to show off is a DVD, and the only reason I got this is because Mindy Kaling in that panel was talking about a dark comedy called Drop Dead Gorgeous, which is this, which has a huge cast: Kirstie Alley, Ellen Barkin, Kirsten Dunst, Denise Richards, and it is apparently a dark comedy where these cheerleaders are trying to make it and trying to do anything they can, even kill, to get to the win. And I think that sounds really fun because it seems like it's probably really happy-go-lucky, but it's really dark. And I'm interested to see this one. I'm kind of excited. It looks really entertaining. That's the only DVD I got. I really don't buy DVDs that much anymore. I really just do Blu-rays and 4Ks for the most part. Unless it's like one that you can't get on there, like that one. I didn't see that online anywhere for Blu-ray. And now let's get on to the 4Ks and Blu-rays. So the first one I got is the Donnie Darko 4K, which I reverse covered. This is the theatrical poster. I kind of like the other one better, so I think I'm going to switch it around. But Donnie Darko is a movie I've seen a couple times, and I just rewatched it a month ago on Joe Bob's Last Drive-In again. And I've seen it before that, but Donnie Darko, it just really stuck with me this time. So when I saw the 4K was there, I immediately grabbed it. It was only $20. See, that artwork I think is really cool. But I don't know if I've seen the director's cut. I've seen the theatrical cut. So I'm glad I got this to have all the special features as well. That's the reason why I buy these horror movies on Blu-ray and 4K, because of the special features. So I'm excited to see what those are in that one. And then I got the Cloverfield 3-film collection. I found it for $10 at a vintage stock in Kansas City. So Cloverfield, I had all 3 of them, but I really wanted to conserve space in terms of like not boutique labels, in terms of like big company labels like Paramount. These are not anything special. So if I get a slimmer version of this, I'm fine with that, because I don't. It's not like Donnie Darko, where this is like a version that's like a unique version. This is just a studio made one where it's just the same discs, exact same thing, except for just in a slimmer case. So that's why I got this, of course. I'm fine with that with the big labels, like the Conjuring collection. I got the Conjuring collection recently, a while back, on Blu-ray, because I don't need to have all of them make that much space when they're not anything special in terms of, they're not boutique movies. They're just movies that are common Warner Brothers movies, or in this case, Paramount. But Cloverfield, love the Cloverfield 1 and 2. Don't like the third one that much, but yeah, I wanted to condense that down. And then this I'm excited for. Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, which I have seen before. I know it's coming out on 4K, but there were no new special features, and I like the artwork to this, so I just got this. Or you could call it Night Warning. Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, I think is really fun, really insane, and it's a really interesting movie. I like how it goes into a lot of different elements in the 80s that were kind of taboo, like having gay characters in it as well. I thought that was fascinating, just because it's a different type of movie in that time period, like, that you wouldn't have expected. And I think it's just a really good thriller. Like, it's really crazy. The actress in it, I'm looking for what her name is. Susan Tyrell, who plays Aunt Susan. Or, what, is it Aunt Susan? I don't know. But the aunt, she is insane in this movie, and it's a fantastic performance. Oh, and also I got to show you the reverse artwork to this. This is really cool. So, it looks like an old VHS tape. So, Nightmare Maker, her covered in blood. That's really cool. But yeah, like I said, it is a really good, kind of underrated. I mean, I feel like people are hearing about it more now. I watched it a couple years ago for the first time, and I've seen it a couple times. I really enjoy it, and of course, I saw it on Blu-ray, so I'm like, I've got to get it. That was cheap too. I think it was only $20 as well for the Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, for a brand new too. And then I found Sleepless, which is a Dario Argento movie, which I have not seen. I didn't find this on streaming, and I found this for $15, and then it was marked down to $11 whenever I went through the checkout at a vintage stock. And on Amazon, it goes for over $100. And on eBay, it's like $25. So I'm like, man, I got a good deal on this. I have not seen this. Like I said, know nothing about it. It's got Max von Sydow in it, which is cool. One of the only big Dario Argento movies I haven't seen. I haven't seen all of his shorts and stuff, but I do need to watch Sleepless. I've been trying to watch all of his filmography. I feel like I'm moderately close. And then there was this place called Half Price Books, which, I also got Drop Dead Gorgeous from Half Price Books, but I got these two from Half Price Books as well. Sleepwalkers and Zombie. And Sleepwalkers is, I don't know if I want this. I don't know if I want this artwork or the other one, but Sleepwalkers is that Stephen King movie that's really, really silly. And I've seen it before, and I'll definitely watch it again and watch the special features. That's why I love Scream Factory releases. But this is the regular commissioned artwork for the movie. This one is insane. What the hell kind of movie is this? I've seen it before. It is nuts. I'll watch it again sometime, but man, it is insane. Then I got Zombie from Blue Underground, which again has a 4K, but it's only a 4K disc on the 4K instead of a Blu-ray. So I wanted both a Blu-ray disc for these, and this one, I'll be fine with this because I don't think the other one has newer special features. And if it does, I'll eventually get it, the 4K, but I don't think it does. This one was $20, so it was not that bad of a deal for sure. This has a lot of special features on it anyways down here, so I'm not going to be missing out much. So yeah, those are all the movies I got this weekend as well at Crypticon. Alright, I got my drink. I'm ready. Let's talk about the movies that I watched. Some of these I'm not going to mention a lot of because I've watched them like a month ago. But Villains, Micah Monroe, from 2018, 2019. Villains is very weird. It's about this couple who are, I think, trying to steal this house, and then they go in, and there's these crazy ass people that are doing insane stuff to them, and they get tortured. And I thought that it was actually really funny. But it's definitely one I'm really not remembering much about, so I might have just skewed the plot, unfortunately. But I did see it like a month ago. But I remember, from what I remember from this movie, is that the cast was really good. And there was this guy from it. I'm trying to think of his name. He was the dude who, like, he was the husband who was in charge, who owned the house. And I'm trying to think of his name. I feel like I know I've seen him in other stuff. It was not Anson Mount. It was that dude from Blair Witch 2, whatever his name was, and he was really good. And Micah Monroe was really good, and I think the guy from It was really good, whatever his name is. I'm blanking on that as well. But I remember Villains being really fun, even though I'm blanking on what the plot was, and that's bad to say. I feel kind of embarrassed to say that, but I watched it a month ago, so. I'm gonna stop talking about Villains. Villains was good though, regardless. The Jester is a Shudder movie about a guy in a jester mask, and he kills people, and it is very generic, very very generic plot. Again, this one I remember even less of than Villains. This one is just kind of like, I remember the Jester kind of like pops up like Michael Myers, disappears like Michael Myers, like he appears, disappears, and he kills people in silly ways, and it's not very entertaining. It's honestly more of a drama than like a horror movie, and I like when movies do that, where they do kind of change your expectations on a movie. But if this movie was good, like, I would have liked it more, but I thought it was just pretty boring and generic. Like, I didn't hate it. It's definitely not one where I thought it was awful. I just thought it was pretty forgettable, with some okay acting and weird dramatic moments in it, but some of it was good. But it wasn't anything that I'm going to remember at all. And then again, speaking of that, Dead Souls is another one I watched, which I have the Blu-ray Scream Factory for, about this house where these people have died in, and they are trying to, what is it? They're either trying to keep the house there, or they're trying to get these people out. And it is just, with the CG, it's really weird in Dead Souls. But I honestly didn't mind the characters in this one, but it really just kind of slightly still fell flat. Not as bad as the Jester did, but it's still like fell flat in that way where it's really not as memorable. And if you watch as many movies as I do, it gets kind of hard to remember what they're about in cases of these ones, because they're just, some of them are so generic, and this one kind of fell in that category, but not as bad as the Jester was. So I really can't say much about Dead Souls besides that I thought it had okay moments in it, which are hard to explain, but I remember there were okay moments in it. Let's talk about The Strangers Chapter 1, which came out a month ago. Like I said, I needed to catch up. The Strangers Chapter 1 is a prequel to The Strangers, but it has stuff from 2024 in it, in terms of, like, there's Airbnbs, and they have current cell phones, and the first Strangers came out in 2008, when that was not the case. So this is directed by Renny Harlin, who I do like some of his movies, and some of his movies I'm whatever on. So it's not like I went into this movie not wanting to like it. The Strangers Chapter 1, the biggest fault with The Strangers Chapter 1 is that it was utterly generic. Like, it, and it's not like a movie where you get a lot of gore either. Like, it was not about the kills either. It was about the slow burn. But this movie is almost just a replica of the first movie again. And the characters in this are just pretty boring and generic, and they don't have anything good to really act on, these actors. And that's unfortunate, because I feel like there could be some better things in it. But it just ran into like the familiar territory of, oh, this couple goes out in the middle of nowhere, they have to get gas, and then their car breaks down, so now they're stuck in this place, and they go rent a cabin, and then what do you know, the strangers appear, and the strangers do things like walk around and just toy with them, and not kill them, but just toy with them. There is a scene that genuinely made me laugh though, because one of the strangers, one of the girls, and it's weird because Pinup Girl and Baby Doll, those characters are a little more distinctive in the other two movies, and in this one they're pretty much the exact same. I can't tell any difference between them besides their masks. Like, there's no like quirks or anything to make me tell the difference between the two girl killers in this one as opposed to the other ones, where they're still not as memorable, but you could slightly tell the difference with them. In this one, it was funny because the scene where one of the girl killers is standing outside behind a tree in the fog, and the woman's like, or the woman in the couple is like, oh my god, look, there she is. And then the husband goes, hey, you get out of here, go get out of here, get the hell out of here. And then you see the stranger, the woman stranger, she like waddles out, like, and it's really funny. She like puts her hands up and like waddles out, like off screen, like through the woods. I thought that was actually a funny scene, but it was not intentionally funny. It was just like the boyfriend stood up to her, but like she just ran away like really goofy like, and that made me laugh. But this movie almost has no kills in it, and I'm not saying that it's a strangers movie. They're not supposed to be like that. The other two are not, even though the second was more of an 80s slasher, which I enjoyed. But this one is not that kind of movie. It's just a slow burn horror movie that's really, really generic. And I'm really sad that it was. And it's weird. It made a lot of money. More than the other. Well, I don't know. I think it made more than Prey at Night, the second one, which I really liked. And this already has 2 sequels planned and filmed. So it is already a set trilogy, which is very interesting. So I'm interested to see if I'll like 2 and 3 more, chapter 2 and 3 more than this, because this one just, like I said, I will watch it again, but it just really is not that memorable. It doesn't have anything that really stands out, but I'll still buy it and watch it again. I'm a sucker for these kind of films. I'm not gonna like get mad that it's generic, but like for this one, but there's some horror movies where it's like, oh, it's too generic. This one didn't really make me mad. It just made me go, it's okay. You know, nothing super special. And then let's talk about Abby, which is a 1970s horror movie. It's a blaxploitation ripoff of The Exorcist, which is awesome. And Warner Brothers sued this company who made this movie. And that's why this movie almost never sees the light of day, Abby. And it's weird because there were a lot more Exorcist ripoffs than this. And this one's the one that got the bear of the brunt. This one got sued out the ass. And I don't really see it having any theatrical or any physical releases much. I think it might have had one, but it was pretty quick, and it wasn't really available often. But I watched this on YouTube. Like, I guess that's the only way one of the only ways to watch it. But Abby is a blaxploitation God, I can't say it. Blaxploitation ripoff of The Exorcist, where a guy goes to not Iraq, he goes somewhere else. I forgot where, some other country, where it's very similar to Iraq, and then a demon's unleashed, and then this woman back at home where he lives in America, she gets possessed, but she's like a young woman, and she like is horny, and she goes to the bars and she has sex with guys while having the demon voice. And I think that's hilarious. That's pretty funny. I laughed at that. I thought that worked really well. It was just really over the top, like dumb, silly, and I just love over the top horror. Like, that's my thing. And this one I thought did a good job of that, because it's a blaxploitation movie plus an exorcism movie. Like, that's funny, and I do like blaxploitation. I think those movies are really entertaining, like Coffee and stuff, or Foxy Brown, stuff like that. Pam Grier stuff especially. But I like those kind of movies, and this one I thought did a fun job. I enjoyed Abby. I kind of recommend it, honestly. And then let's talk about, so this one's going to be hard to remember too, because there are 3 other, so the ones I'm going to talk about are the Toxic Avenger 2, 3, and 4. I've seen the first Toxic Avenger, and I rewatched that on the last drive-in like a month ago, I think, too. But I never had seen the sequels before. I never saw Toxic Avenger 2 or 3 or 4. So the one I remember the least is 3. But part 2, I remember he goes to Japan because Tromaville is like good now because like he stopped everybody. But I don't remember much about 3 at all. And 4, I remember because 4 went kind of back to how the first one was. It was really gory. It was really explicit. And not to say part 2 and 3 didn't have some gore. It had a little bit, but not enough to justify being as entertaining as the first one or even the fourth one. So I like the fourth one a good amount, but 2 and 3 I just really don't remember. And maybe I'll just need to watch them more and more because I don't really rewatch stuff that much anymore. Sometimes, only if it has an audio commentary mostly. But if I do rewatch them, if I do take the time, maybe I might like them more. But as of now, I think that 2 and 3 are pretty boring and just I really don't remember them. But 4, I'll remember the gore effects. Like I really like those. There was an awesome scene in 4 where Toxie like smashes this person's head and like it's just the bottom jaw and the tongue's out there like like that, like, and there's no top head. And that was really funny. And like there was a guy who gets a cross like through his neck and to the back of his neck. I thought that was really cool. I liked the fourth one for sure. It wasn't as good as the first one in terms of like how insanely ridiculous and explicit you can go with it. But the fourth one I felt like was a return to form. I say that as if I've been a fan of this for years. I've only watched these movies once, these sequels, but it felt like a return to form. The fourth one did to the first one. So yeah, I don't know what any of you guys think about the Toxic Avenger sequels. Like I said, I like the fourth one the most for sure, but they're not as interesting as the first one though. I don't think. Then I watched a movie called Houseboat Horror, which is on Amazon Prime right now. Go check it out. I watched this a few days ago. Houseboat Horror is, you guessed it, it's I forgot which country this is in. I don't know if it's Australian, but like these characters are on a boat and there's a killer and he axes people. And I gotta say, the gore in this is really cool. There's a scene where a guy gets his throat slit and his neck flies back and it just like is open and spurts everywhere. That was a great practical effect. I remember that. I remember some of the gore in this, but besides that, this movie is really, really boring. Like I could not like pay full attention to it. Only until the gore happened, I cared. I did not care at all about any of these characters. Nothing about Houseboat Horror was good except for the gore moments, which were very short, of course, because you with these exploitive gore movies, you're not gonna have a whole movie based on gore. You're gonna have like every 10 minutes, every 20 minutes kind of thing. But yeah, Houseboat Horror, pretty generic, pretty bad, except for some of the gore. I also watched Cabin Fever, Patient Zero, and Cabin Fever 2, Spring Fever. So, because I had seen Cabin Fever before, I decided I might as well check out the sequels, and they were on Max. Or I guess the second one was on Max, and I had the Blu-ray for Area Zero. But Area Zero, really generic. The only thing I remember is that a girl is getting eaten out by a guy, and he says, "Oh, baby, you're so wet." And then he lifts his face up, and he's just got blood and guts on him because she's, like, rotting from the inside. I thought that was hilarious. But besides that, nothing about Area Zero was good at all. Really boring. It had the guy from Lord of the Rings, Sam, in it. That's all I remember. Cabin Fever, Area Zero. Cabin Fever 2 was definitely not as good as the first one, but it had some moments. I thought it had some good gore effects, and I like that it was at a prom. I thought that was interesting that they didn't do it in an actual, like, Cabin Fever. Makes you think it's out in the woods in a cabin, even though Cabin Fever is just the term of, yeah, you know what I mean. Exactly. But, yeah, both of them are not as good as the first one. And I watched the remake a long time ago that came out in like 2016 for Cabin Fever, and that one was terrible. I did not like that one, unfortunately. So yeah, I watched those, and then I watched Rabid, which is the 2019 remake of Cronenberg's 1970s, 70s or 80s. I think it's 70s Rabid. I forgot what year it was though. But anyway, Rabid 2019 is totally different from what I remember from the original Rabid. Like, this one is about a fashion designer, which I actually think, like, in concept is actually interesting. Like, this fashion designer who is kind of getting shit on, and then these people get exploited by this flesh eating virus, and then it just becomes like ugly in terms of trying to be a beautiful place, and if that makes sense, like a fashion industry. Like, I think that's kind of cool. And the ending, I did not expect the ending where you're like, what in the fuck is this? Like, it is just insane. And I won't spoil it here, but that's the thing I like the most about Rabid 2019 is the ending. Really nuts. Really insane. So, yeah, not much else I can say about Rabid, but I also watched, now these are both thrillers that I wanted to see for a long time, Stir of Echoes and 1408. So Stir of Echoes is the Kevin Bacon movie where Kevin Bacon is having these weird, like, his son's having these weird visions while there's like a missing girl, and then weird things happen where, like, these characters kind of go through these weird situations, and that's all I really want. I don't really want to explain it more than that. I'm trying to be vague on it because it is an interesting story, and I actually like this a lot. A lot of people have always told me that this one was really good, and I did think it was interesting. I thought that it was effective with these characters and what they're doing, and in terms of, like, this weird story that's not, like, elaborated on until, like, the end. Like, I liked that as well. It's like a big mystery, and it does a good job of being a mystery. So I like Stir of Echoes. It might be one of my favorite Kevin Bacon performances. I thought he was really good in it. I'm glad I finally saw that because that's just one people always say, go see. And then I watched 1408, which is, I think, based on a Stephen King novel, or book, or short story. Novel and a book, same thing. It's based on either a book or a short story from Stephen King, I think. But it has John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson in it for like 5 minutes. Samuel L. Jackson is marketed on this poster art, and he's like barely in this movie, like, at all. And 1408 is weird because I liked it, but it's one of those movies like Donnie Darko where it's like, I gotta watch this again someday maybe, because it had a lot to unpack. And also, this movie has like 4 different endings, which I didn't realize until I got to the end, and I was watching it with a friend who saw a different ending, and we were both like, oh, well, okay, so there's a lot more endings to this than I expected, because it was not the ending my friend saw. So I looked it up, and there were like 3 or 4 different endings. Like, there was one ending that was too much of a downer. There was the one I watched, I think, is the theatrical ending, but then the endings just are different depending on where you stream it or where you buy it, or I mean, which version you buy. So that's very interesting. I don't know. I did like this one. This one really gets inside of your head. It's just weird and surreal, and like, it's about Joan Cusack, and he's like a ghost expert, and like, he goes into this haunted room in a hotel, and then he starts seeing weird shit, and that's pretty much all I could say. It's just really odd in a good way. Like, it's very strange. I definitely liked it. And then let's talk about the last movie that's a non-horror movie, but I've got to mention, because I'm a big Disney fan, Inside Out 2. So Inside Out 2 came out recently, and I love Disney Pixar movies. Even there's some that I don't like because Pixar had a good streak for a long time when I was a kid, and even adults liked a majority of these Pixar movies up until a point. And the past like 3 or 4 movies have been kind of whatever, unfortunately. And some of them have been really good. Some of them have been whatever. Pixar cannot always be perfect, and that's what people should realize, is that whenever you make movies, like, not everybody's going to like them. And even though Pixar had made a lot of great movies, that doesn't mean that they're always going to. You can't just always make a movie that everybody's going to like or agree with. And the last couple I thought were okay or good, but not like masterpieces like some of the other Pixar movies. Like, I like Turning Red and I like Luca, but they weren't like masterpieces. I like Soul a lot, like those kind of movies. But Inside Out 2 is a sequel to, besides the Toy Story movies, my favorite film in the Pixar films, Inside Out, besides Toy Story. In Toy Story 1 through 4, Inside Out 1 and Coco are like top 3. Amazing, amazing movies. I just bumped the camera. Love those movies. Incredible, incredible movies. And Inside Out 2, I was interested to see what I was going to think of it, because Pixar's and Disney sequels are not usually as good. Not saying all of them aren't, but I think like a good amount of them aren't as good as the first one. And I was kind of worried about Inside Out 2, but man, watching Inside Out 2, this was excellent. This was really good. And the idea of, so this is slightly personal. I had anxiety attacks a long time ago, and the use of anxiety as an emotion in this movie felt so compellingly well made and well done, because I lived that kind of experience, and that was so incredible, like, to see. And I think that Inside Out 1 did an amazing, incredible job with happiness and sadness, and how you have to have both to survive and live. You're not always going to be happy, you're not always going to be sad. And in this one, Riley, the character, is becoming a teenager, and now, of course, anxiety is the next thing up in your emotions that are going to happen as a teenager. And it works very well, because the way they created anxiety, who's voiced by Maya Hawke, who does an excellent job, by the way, love her in this, it truly just shocked me, and how like connected I was to this emotion. And I know it just was very interesting, and I'm not going to go too personal about this, but just with whenever I had some anxiety attacks for a long time, like a year straight, I'd say, I could feel the same building up to creating one and having one happen with this character. And it was just so interesting, and all the emotions, the new emotions, were all so cool. But anxiety was the best one, and she just stole the show, and the whole movie was really, really great. And I didn't expect that. I still think I like the first one slightly more. I think the first one's like a masterpiece, but this one is very close to a masterpiece. Like, I think I need to watch it a couple more times to fully say if I feel like it's a masterpiece. But the elements in it that I love are fantastic. Like I said, anxiety is just so incredible. It's really funny. It's still heartfelt. It's still emotionally good and resonant. But yeah, really, really liked Inside Out 2. So if you stayed with me this long, thank you. And I'm gonna have more movies coming out. There are gonna be more movies that I am going to see that are coming out, is what I'm gonna say. Maxine and A Quiet Place 2 are coming out this week. Or actually, A Quiet Place Day 1 actually came out a couple days ago. I have not seen it yet, but Maxine, as of this recording, comes out in a couple days. Really excited for that, for both of them, but Maxine for sure, even though I do like Quiet Place a lot. But definitely Maxine, because I loved X and Pearl. So yeah, I've got more videos coming up. I don't know when I'll record them, but I will have them up sometime. Thank you guys for understanding, and thanks if you watched this whole thing. Thanks for watching. You guys have a good day. Thanks.